You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the November 4th, 2024 regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. I'm Florence Mitchell. Today's meeting begins with the presentation of the 2024 Community Appreciation Awards. Under Economic Development, Business, and Culture, Councilors Hurdle and Weir will move that Council removes the designation of local historic place from 3 buildings: the Cottage Craft Building, O'Brien House, and 312 Montague Street. Further to this, Councilors Hurdle and Weir will move to grant leave for the first reading of Heritage Conservation Bylaw 24-04. Councilors Hurdle and Weir will also move that Council uses the Community Assistance Grant to support the 2025 Winter Warmer Festival with a grant of $500, and the Christmas by the Sea Committee with a grant to be determined by Council. Finally, under Finance and Administration, Deputy Mayor Akaji will open a discussion on the Town of St. Andrews 2025 budget. Now let's join Council at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Council Chambers in St. Andrews.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. Here we are Monday, November 4th at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Chamber. This meeting, in addition to being open to the public, which it's great to see so many people here for a happy reason, it's also being aired through Zoom and Facebook. If anyone has any questions this evening regarding tonight's agenda, and you're not here in person, you can send us a question by emailing pnopper@townofstanders.ca. Mr. Nopper will make sure to put that in the comments of the Facebook link. Let's get into the recording of attendance of all members of council. We are all here. Councillor Blanchard is joining us remotely. I'll do my best to look up at the screen in case you have any questions this evening. Otherwise, feel free to interrupt if need be. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Beskotomagati people. So, agenda for this evening, could I have a mover to approve the agenda as circulated? I've got a mover. Could I have a seconder? It's Councillor Heenan, by the way, Mr. Nopper, and seconded by Councillor Neal. Any changes or discussion on the agenda? Pardon? One addition at the closed session? Okay, you want to formally add that in? Okay, you want a formal amendment on that or friendly? Formal? Okay, I'll be looking to have amendment to add I almost said Minister, MLA Kathy Baucus, our newly re-elected MLA, would like to just have the floor for just a moment. Could I have a mover to add that in? We'll add it right after the presentations. I've got Deputy Mayor Akchi and seconded by Councillor Bennett. Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of approving the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Now back to the original agenda. Please, all in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye. And that is everybody. The agenda has been carried. Disclosure of conflict of interest, any this evening? Seeing none, if anything does come up, please let me know. We can declare it at that time. Let's jump into I think the reason why most people are here. Should we maybe do the budget conversation first, though? Talk a couple hours and get into that? That'd be, yeah, no, okay. Let's stick to how the agenda is. We'll kick it off with the presentations, and I'll switch to that one would be better. So I'll switch mics 1 sec. This is kind of awkward. All right. So every year we do recognize our Community Appreciation Awards, and it's really an honor. This community is built off volunteerism. We all know it. If we didn't have the volunteers that we do in this community, people talk about how special St. Andrews is, and we do have a lot of fortunate assets. There's some people in the community before us that have donated graciously a building like this, for example, and a building of this size, but it doesn't just stop there. Right to the very day, there's a lot of organizations, a lot of not-for-profits, and a lot of groups that simply run from people that raise their hand. And a lot of the time when they raise their hand, it is the same individuals that you'll see on multiple organizations and multiple committees. So once a year to kind of celebrate everybody, it makes a lot of sense. There's some very deserving individuals today. So I'm going to jump right into them. The first one is a service award. And it's not because he lives very close to my house, but I wanted to recognize David Lord. And anyone that knows David knows that he is heavily involved in the community, not just his career, but post-career, very, very active. In particular, he's heavily involved with the board, with the cemetery, as well as he's the church warden. A lot of us know him there. But in particular, he's had a very, very busy role over, especially the last year, and I know it's busy most years, but there was a significant amount of upgrades made to the church. My understanding is you were a big part of all that happening. So we thought it was very fitting, and we had nominations from the community to ask you to come here this evening and receive a special appreciation award. So Dave, Laurie, if you come forward, we'd love to get a photo with you and a certificate. All right, so we're going to switch gears a little bit. This is actually the second year that we've ever given this away. We thought it was very fitting and very appropriate to start recognizing youth in our community that get involved, raise their hand early, show leadership. And this is the second year we've ever done it. And this particular individual, I really got to know myself, and I think quite a few other members of council have over the last few years. And in particular, a lot of dedication and volunteerism went into our own fire department. And you could imagine the forest fire that happened, and you can imagine, I think being in grade, I don't know what it would have been there, grade 11, grade 12, to be out there and just for days just battling the forest fire. And I personally at Kira, I don't know a lot of people know, but there was a fire there in the spring, and he's one of the first to go in the building, and that's and again, that's a youth of our community. And the other thing I'll say is he's very good referee, and he's volunteered. And I don't know if you know, but referees in minor hockey, they're actually getting harder and harder. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some are the way that us adults act. But the fact that he's raised his hand and ref so many things, it's so critical to our community. So the other thing I'll add is it is very rare when we have a handsome Neil in this council chambers. But the apple must have fell from the mother's tree, because I am very pleased to present the Youth Award this year to Gregor Neal. Just 1 second, I got to scratch an award off here. All right, the next one is a special appreciation award. This individual is involved in so much, and the community actually doesn't know. I would say that she's more of a behind-the-scenes person, and the fact that she's even here to accept this, she doesn't, from my interaction, she doesn't always like to be front and center, but it doesn't mean that she doesn't make huge impact. If anyone knows Cindy Kohler, you know that there's a lot of posters that you even see in the community. She designs those free of charge for community events. That's not-for-profits. There's a lot of not-for-profits that their website, she helps them troubleshoot with those. She designs them. She charges a fraction, like literally a fraction even for businesses when she does it. But she makes things affordable in our community. But that's not it. She sits on a lot of different boards. The Christmas Committee is one that you're definitely heavily involved with. We have a heritage bylaw that's proposed. She raised her hand to be involved with the Heritage Board. And I understand tomorrow night you might actually be with the BIA taking a bigger role. So is that like public knowledge, or am I making it awkward? So you might be the chair of the BIA is what I'm hearing? So she might be taking over as chair of the BIA. And I know I'm missing about 15 things, but you get the point. She's heavily involved behind the scenes, never wants credit. And I think it's very appropriate that we certainly recognize Cindy Kohler for all of her efforts that she does in her community. So let's give her a big round of applause. And you got to get front and center. All right, the last one. It's a teamwork award, and it's probably why we have such a large presence, I can tell. But it's very, very fitting. First of all, anyone that ever has gone to the Bayside Golf Course would know how important that is to our community. We are very fortunate to have one of the top golf courses in Canada. There's no question about it. But that course isn't necessarily affordable for all in our community. And there's a lot of people like youth and things that you see out using the Bayside Golf Course, a lot of regulars as well. But the amount of work and the amount of effort it takes, we have recognized Phil Bartlett in the past. Phil Bartlett, to me, is the godfather of the Bayside Golf Course. Yeah, big round of applause for Phil. But we know something like the Bayside Golf Course really does take a village to make it possible, and it's not just the upkeep. It is a major undertaking to run a golf course and to run it the way that you do, but also the amount of events and socialization that it is for people. And I don't have to get into how important that golf course was during COVID, but there was one of the few things that people could actually get together. But to have that golf course literally like where people can just go out and there's an honesty policy where you can make a donation to pay for your round. I don't think a lot of people realize that a golf course like that is not in every community, and we're very, very fortunate for that. So I wanted to recognize the entire group, the village that it is that makes that place possible. And I'm not going to chirp to the Bayside men who recently lost a golf competition. Yeah, Brian's kind of scaring me right now, so I'll just drop the whole event. Yeah, okay, never mind. Scratch that one off. It was a lucky win by us. And I will say before we present this award to the Bayside women, there is no birdie juice allowed in council chambers. But let's give a big round of applause and I hope we're not leaving anyone out. This is the list I have before me. Again, all these nominations came from the community. I've got Bill Brownrigg, Linda Brownrigg. Linda gets it for just putting up with Bill. No, she's heavily involved out there. Mike Butcher, Brian Cummings, Bert Francis, David Garnett, Arnold Goss, John Keating, Alex Noel, Daphne Noel, Bill McCurdy, Craig Tweedy. Did I forget anyone that's here for to get recognized? I hope I didn't. Otherwise, we may not have a certificate. If there is anybody that else, because I know names have kept coming forward, we want to make sure that you can come back and be recognized, because I know there's a lot of people that make that possible. But on behalf of everybody, including myself, I've enjoyed that. I think a few counselors have been out there and enjoyed that. Thank you. So come on up. We'll get a group photo. No, I never did that. What was that? Face right over here. We'll try to get all in. Tall people in the back. Get your wife in. And before we get in the budget, there was the amendment in the agenda. It's my honor now to welcome up our MLA, Kathy Baucus, who just recently was reelected. It's her first time before us, and she was. So congratulations, Kathy. We're very happy that you're here, and I'd like to give you the podium.
Well, thank you, Mayor Brad. When I called the mayor and asked if I could speak, he said, perfect. He said, it's the perfect meeting to do this. So I just wanted to share something with you. A while back, I was asked to write a little bit of a nomination. So this is what I wrote. And I'm turning this way. Can you still hear me? Yep. Okay. Helping immigrants transition into their new Charlotte County homes is the focus of Surin Yoga Nathan, the manager of community engagements with the Multicultural Association of Charlotte County. Helping our new neighbors find a true level of acceptance is Surin's goal, and he does this in a variety of ways, including providing newcomers with employment services and supplying businesses with cultural and education programs. Surin has led projects across Canada and led seminars on diversity and issues relating to identity and belonging. He and the other Multicultural Association of Charlotte County employees provide a number of opportunities to ease the transition and increase familiarity for both the newcomer and longtime residents. One of the most popular, and always sold out, because I know I go, are the World of Flavors events in St. Stephen's, St. Andrews, and St. George. These events give residents a chance to broaden their culinary knowledge through the sampling of various ethnic dishes prepared by the newcomers. It's a casual, friendly atmosphere and a large kitchen party, really, where people can gather, laugh, and talk over good food, a maritime tradition. Surin's calm and sincere demeanor helps ease the way for acceptance and the building of lasting relationships. Now, the reason I wrote that, and it was way back in July, was we received, as MLAs, notice that the Government of Canada was allowing us to nominate 4 people each. Each MLA got 4 nominations for the King Charles III Coronation Medal. So we all, with trepidation, wrote our nominations, and we got word just before the election that the nominations had been approved. At least mine were. That's all I was worried about. So, Surin, I'm very, very pleased to present you with this medal, King Charles III Coronation Medal. Yes.
There, looks. Thank you. You're welcome.
And these medals highlight, by the way, the themes that both King Charles III and Canadians hold dear, including service, the environment and sustainability, and our nation's diversity. There's a certificate, too. All kinds of stuff. So we're going to go around front. Let's do this. We'll do the certificate.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
There's your envelope, and there's your little doohickey
Perfect.
for your medal.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to our MLA, and congratulations, sir. And it is well-deserved, and I know for someone in this community, a number of new residents that I've been able to meet through you, your work is greatly appreciated. I'm very happy to see that our MLA has recognized you, and as has the province and the Government of Canada. So congratulations. All right, so here's your chance. If you want to stay and have some fun, you can, otherwise they'll give you a moment. Wow. Don't trip on the way out the door, okay? No pushing.
You really know how to clear a room, Brad?
Listen, counselors, you can't go, eh? Well, we couldn't even keep one of them, eh? Oh, there's a purse. For those of you that cannot see the room, there is a purse, so we will have one of them at least come back. We hope. All right, well, we can get going, right? There's no reason why we can't. All right, council, is there any changes to any of the minutes? I always like to fast track it and do this first. I'm not seeing any. Usually that Mr. Knopper gets them almost word for word, so it's very easy. So what we'll do is we'll fly through them then. So we're going to go through the approvals of the minutes. The first one are the minutes of the 24-10-01 public hearing of objections to bylaw number 24-04, Heritage Conservation Bylaw, Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Mover, please. I've got Councillor Heenan, seconded by, I'm looking at the screen, Councillor Harland. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. Okay, next one are the minutes of the 24-10-01 special meeting of council on the 2025 budget, Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, 6:45 p.m. Mover, please. I've got Councillor Harland again, and I've got Deputy Mayor Akaji. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. And we are done 2 of 7 of these tonight. Minutes of the 24-10-07 regular council meeting, Monday, October 7th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. A mover, please. I've got Councillor Neal, seconded by Councillor Heenan. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. The next are the minutes of the 24-10-09 special council meeting, 2025 budget, Wednesday, October 9th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Mover. I've got Councillor Harlan, seconder. I've got Councillor Hurdle. Almost had a brain cramp there. First time I met you. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. We're over halfway now. 24-10-21 public hearing of objections, meeting to bylaw number 24-05, the BIA levy, Monday, October 21st, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Mover. I'm looking at the screen, though. I'm looking at the screen. There he is. Councillor Blanchard, seconded by Deputy Mayor Akaji. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. And now the minutes of the 24-10-21 regular council meeting, Monday, October 21st, 2024, 6:45 p.m. You know the routine. Mover. Councillor Gumashell on the scoreboard here. Seconder is Councillor Neal. All in favor of those minutes, please signify by saying aye. And the last ones are the minutes of the 24-10-28 special council meeting of the 2025 budget, Monday, October 28th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Last but not least, a mover for this one, Councillor Harlan, seconded by... Ooh, that was a tie. I'm going to give the tie to Councillor Gumashell because he was not in a tie. All in favor of approving those minutes, please signify by saying aye. And we are all through the minutes. We're jumping right ahead to communications. Over to you, Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council, the weather is changing rapidly as we go from near summer conditions in early October to near winter temperatures later in the month. As we prepare for the winter activities, including Christmas events, I present the following reports on your ongoing initiatives. The community awards were given out earlier this evening. While the recipients do not anticipate recognition, it is important to highlight the achievements being done locally to bring awareness to the people and the organizations represented. On behalf of the Mayor, Council, and staff, congratulations to all of them and thank you for what you bring to our community. In 2 related matters, the Heritage Conservation Bylaw is being brought forward for consideration after hundreds of volunteer hours by the committee and many provided opportunities for consultation for the public. Although we have already had a meeting of objections, the public still can submit feedback until the 3rd and final reading. The other matter is the Charlotte County Courthouse and Commons. Civic Trust introduced a conceptual plan including possible avenues of financial assistance for making these facilities more of a focal point for the town. A discussion on what next steps Council would like to take on this proposal should be undertaken. I would like the opportunity to meet with the presenters to review the business plan for the proposal and to provide further input if Council is interested in further review. Administration. I wish to congratulate Bill Dowling on his retirement from the arena after a 9-year career with the town of St. Andrews. Originally starting as a seasonal worker in 2015, he started full-time at the arena in 2016 and was front-facing for many of the children and adults that use the premises over the winter. We wish him well and hope he enjoys his new freedom. Earlier this spring, the Recreation Department implemented a new cloud-based application called ActiveNet. This allows users to go online and make reservations on their own and shows available slots on a calendar. However, staff still need to finally approve it. We would encourage anyone interested in a town-owned facility to go on our website to access this user-friendly tool. Staff and council continue to review options for mitigating the infill required for the Market Square expansion. We have been working locally with an engineer and Ducks Unlimited to identify a project that is reasonably priced but acceptable to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. While the extra cost is not entirely welcome news, the expansion of the square is considered an important community asset, and if not done at the same time as the wharf, it may not get done at all. The mayor and staff attended a virtual meeting with 6 other municipalities that have direct contracts with the RCMP. District J out of Fredericton presented an update on resourcing, policing initiatives, and municipal partners were able to bring forward any concerns they have with the services or the contract administration. One of the benefits of being a partner of the MPSA is that we do get access to senior managers of the mounted police, as opposed to those under the provincial policing agreement. Ongoing funding of special services, such as police dogs or explosive disposal units, is an ongoing conversation, as the cost to maintain these services is relatively high and used by most jurisdictions, including those with municipal police forces. On October 29th, staff attended training on the new system that allow consumption-based billing in our utility department moving forward. I wish to recognize Andrew Lord, Steve Ruddock, Kevin Terrio, and Jim Ross, who have been the key implementers for the system, as it has created a significant workload over their usual duties. Staff are working with Sortie to come up with signs for the Van Horn Trail next year that will include both wayfinding and informational signs to be installed. The best part is Coastal Link Trail has funding available to pay for these and will not come out of the taxpayer municipal budgets. Excuse me. Under services, one of our planned capital projects for 2024 was the replacement of a strainer unit at the water treatment plant in Shamcook. This is a vital component of our water treatment process, as one of the original strainers needed to be taken out of service over the winter, putting more pressure on the remaining one. In order to replace the unit, we will need to take the pumps offline for several hours sometime in November and replace components. In addition, the Department of Health may require us to issue a townwide boil order again, as a main component of the system is being replaced. To lower the risk of the users, we plan to start the work in the evening and work through the night, as usage should be at its lowest. We are working closely with all the stakeholders involved in the project to be able to provide a week or more's notice to our customers as we complete this needed work. We thank you for your patience and understanding. We will provide mail-outs, communications through our alert system, and use social media to get the messages out in a timely manner. We were recently informed by the manufacturer of the new ladder truck for the fire department that there will be a 6-week delay in delivery, as they are having trouble sourcing materials for the ladder. They have been sending weekly updates as the main chassis is being built, so the apparatus is well under construction. While this is unfortunate, since it was ordered in early 2022, the delivery is near and the department is looking forward to receiving it. Chief Terrio and another member of the department will be going out to the plant to do a final inspection before it is completed. Part of the cost is offset by the manufacturer. I would also like to acknowledge that members of the department have put in 315 hours of training over the 4-week period ending in October. The bylaw officer and clerk are working with the landowner in Bayside over an unsightly premises issue. In early 2023, Council approved the unsightly premises bylaw to be extended to the full municipality. This is a huge benefit for local government reform, as the provincial team that was responsible for this task outside of municipalities is overwhelmed and could take years to respond to an issue. It should be noted that these files are complaint-driven, and staff will work with the landowners to bring them in with compliance before starting legal procedures. The planners at the Regional Service Commission continue to be busy for the town. They would like to do one more workshop with council on specific components of the municipal plan prior to Christmas, and then pick up the full review early in the new year. It should be noted that at the end of October, the following permits and applications have been processed by the Service Commission on our behalf: 98 building permits, 28 applications for variances or terms and conditions, 10 sign permits, and 13 zoning confirmations, in addition to other things. The recreation managers continue to expand the senior activities offered with the following in October: painting for beginners, yoga, aquafit, table tennis, and others. The public skating schedule for the season is now available, and we have specialized slots for tots, those who wish to practice their hockey skills, and general skates for all ages. For more information, please consult our website, digital sign, or posters on the Kiwanis board outside of Town Hall. The museums and historical places have now shut down for the season and have the following number of visitors. The Ross Museum had 1,744, Sheriff Andrews 2,818, and the Blockhouse 12,527. Public Works had a busy month of October with preparing for Indulge, winterizing the seasonal facilities, removing the one-way signage on Water Street, and making preparations for Christmas decorations. The leaf pickup program also continued, which ends on November 29th, as did the Branches and Brush program, which ends on November 15th. In conclusion, a reminder that the annual Remembrance Day service will be taking place at All Saints Church again. Due to the popularity of the service, we recommend getting there early to find a seat. Alternatively, and by community request, we will stream the audio portion of the service in Market Square near the cenotaph. For those attending there, we suggest bringing your own seating. Although the agenda is relatively late tonight, Council has been very busy as there were 11 different evening meetings, excluding other committees and community events they may have attended. As we get closer to finalizing the budget, the latter half of November, December should be less busy, although the work will continue for 2025 initiatives. Respectfully submitted, Chris Spear, Chief Administrative Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Safe to say not much went on that month. That's a long report. Thank you for taking the time to do that. I know it does take some time to summarize that. It's greatly appreciated. Council, any questions on this or the financial report? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much, Mr. Spear. I will say that I did come up to the arena earlier today, and the youth with sticks. There was at least 15 youth out on the ice just playing right after school. So that's good to see that it's getting used more and more. And I noticed a couple public skatings are still busy, so the ice time is appreciated. Okay, Council, could I have a mover to accept the staff reports as presented? Got Councillor Bennett, seconded by Deputy Mayor Akagi. All in favor of accepting, please signify by saying aye. That has been done, so let's jump over now to our agenda, and we are now getting into introduction, consideration, and passing of bylaws. So the first one is going to be Economic Development, Business, and Culture Committee on page 80. Give me a sec here to see who it is. One more turn. It is Councillor Hurdle.
Get the name that time.
Nailed it.
You read it.
I didn't get it wrong. I didn't get it wrong. I just had
And this is in reference to EBC 240902, and the subject is bylaw number 24-04, Heritage Conservation Bylaw for first reading. And the background is the Heritage Board of the Town of St. Andrews was established in the summer of 2023 to develop a heritage conservation bylaw. The board has developed a draft bylaw for consideration by council. Please see the attached document for more details. The bylaw process is as follows. The public hearing of objections was held October 1st, 2024. There's first reading, second reading, third, and final reading. After the public hearing of objections, the comments and bylaw were reviewed by staff and legal. The bylaw had the following changes. We cleared up language and connections between sections with additions recommended by legal, made the guidelines schedule so they are officially part of the bylaw, removed O'Brien House due to demolition, removed Cottage Craft, which is a new building, removed 312 Montague Street as per owner's request, and removed provincially designated buildings. Note that there will have to be 3 motions to remove the designations for the Cottage Craft Building, O'Brien House, and 312 Montague Street as local historic places. Any resident can request to be removed from the list voluntarily prior to the passing of the third reading of bylaw. If council is comfortable with the changes made to the bylaws recommended by legal, council can move to first reading. And the first motion before us is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews remove the designation of the Cottage Craft Building as a local historic place, and I so move.
Seconder. Ooh, Councillor Heenan on that one. Discussion? Okay, just to be clear on the process, that it's because that building no longer exists is why it's being removed, just to update the directory, I'll call it. Okay, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. That's been done. Next one.
The next motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews remove the designation of the O'Brien House Building as a local historic place, and I so move.
And once again, seconder. Got Deputy Mayor Akagi. Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. And we're consistent. That's been carried.
The next motion before us is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews remove the designation of 312 Montague Street, Richard Key Residence as a local historic place, and I so move.
Seconder again. I've got Councillor Harlan. Discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. And we're on the last.
And that this motion is that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews grants leave for first reading to bylaw number 24-04, Heritage Conservation Bylaw for the Town of St. Andrews, and I so move.
And once again, a seconder will be Deputy Mayor very quickly that time. Discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor of going to first reading, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, that's been carried. I'll just read it by title. This is bylaw number 24-04. It's a heritage conservation bylaw for the town of St. Andrews. And I guess I'll have to read it by title. So 1 is purpose, 2 is definitions, 3 is municipal heritage conservation area, 4 is administration, 5 is heritage permit, 6 is standards, 7 is demolition, removal, or relocation, 8 is dangerous and unsightly premise, and it was read the first time the 4th day of November of 2024. For anyone that is watching this, you can get a copy of this at Town Hall. It's also available through our website. And council right up until third reading and beyond, but up until third reading when this is made, we'll be getting communication. And I just want to recognize someone did have some questions and some concerns today. I just wanted to recognize the leadership of Councillor Hurdle. He reached back out and said, hey, let's get together and talk about this. And sometimes people have legitimate concerns, and sometimes it's just not knowing the whole story and what it is and what it isn't. And the fact that Councillor Hurdle volunteered to take a meeting to discuss that with a resident, that was very good of you. So I just wanted to recognize you on that. So thank you, Council. So first reading is now complete. Let's jump back to the agenda. And 92. This one is Councillor Ware. It's under Economic Development, Business, and Culture.
Thank you. Reference number EBC 241103, October 30th, 2024. Community Assistance Request for 2025 Winter Warmer Festival. Town of St. Andrews has received a community assistance grant request from the Winter Warmer Festival in the amount of $500. Please see the attached document for detail. This event takes place January 30th to February 2nd, 2025. Normally, the town starts the intake for community assistance grants for 2025 in January, with a review in February and funding released by March. However, as this event takes place at the end of January, it is appropriate for council to review funding requests. Note that in previous years, the town has provided $500 in community assistance grants to Winter Warmer Festival. If approved by council, funds can be deferred to come from the 2025 grant fund. The motion reads that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews supports the Winter Warmer Festival 2025 with a community assistance grant of $500, and that funds will come from the 2025 budget. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Ware. Seconder, please. I've got Councillor Heenan. Discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question then. All in favor of this motion, please signify by saying aye. It's everybody. It's been carried. The next one is Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is in reference to EBC 241102, and the subject is a Community Assistant Grant Request 2024 Christmas by the Sea. The background is the Town of St. Andrews has received a Community Assistance Grant request from the Christmas by the Sea Committee for $2,000 in financial support. Please see the attached documents for more details. Currently, the town has $1,600 left in the Community Assistant Grant Fund remaining for 2024. If council wishes to meet the $2,000 request, then funds will have to come from another budget, or this budget line will be over budget proposed for 2024. Note that if the Christmas by the Sea Committee budget has not been provided to council by the time of council meetings, staff would recommend tabling the funding decision to a later date. And has that happened? Should I pause there? Oh, it's in the package, okay. Yeah. Well, that's, yeah, thank you. And the motion before us is that the council of the town of St. Andrews supports the Christmas by the Sea Committee with a community assistance grant of, and it's left for us to fill in, for 2024. And I so move.
Thank you. Maybe we'll just get a second and then open discussion, then maybe amend it for the amount. Does that make sense? I've got Councillor Heenan, so this is now on the table. Okay, so just for clarity for council, I believe the Christmas committee actually bought things for the town as well, though. Is that right? It's kind of like a...
Well, yeah, so the town is officially, they're a committee of council still, so we do the formal bookkeeping, but since they didn't have a line budget last year, they are asking for, I guess, a transfer from assistance grants into their own funding to be able to do it, so we are still the bookkeepers of record for the committee.
Perfect, but did they buy decor for the town that we normally would pay for, or am I off on that?
Somewhere in between. So they had a request to change lighting, which they're going to do. It wasn't, that was, some of our lighting is multicolored, and they prefer to go to a more warm white, I think is the term. And so they decided to buy that, to expedite that process, because we hadn't put anything aside for that this year.
Okay, just because that is kind of relevant that they're buying Christmas lights for the town for the future that we normally would have purchased. So council, my recommendation would be they're asking for $2,000. If you do decide to do this, I would use the $1,600 left in the community assistant grant and then take $400 from the from the tourism accommodation levy, just for the fact that it is a major tourism drive, as we know, in December. However, there's nothing to say that you can't just use the $1,600. There's nothing to say that we spend a lot on Christmas as a community already, as you know. So the debate is up to you. So council, what's your pleasure on? First of all, is anyone comfortable with the $2,000 request? Show of hands if you are. I think probably majority. Yeah, okay, majority are. So let's just have someone amend that the council of the town of St. Andrews supports the Christmas by the Sea Committee with a community assistance grant of $2,000 for 2024. Deputy Marakaji has moved to amend that. Councillor Gumashel has seconded to amend that. All in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. All right, now back to the motion. All in favor of approving this, please signify by saying aye. That's everybody. That's been carried. Thank you, council. And again, just for clarity, we're going to take $1,600 out of the community assistance grant and $400 out of the tourism accommodation levy for that. All right, so that's it for motions, right, council? We're getting in now to the discussion on the Town of St. Andrews 2025 budget. So, Mr. Spear, I'll pass it over to you.
Oh boy, I can't believe everybody left. That would have been the most exciting part of the night, right? So council, tonight I'd just like to talk. So last meeting, we went over some of the capital items, and it had been requested that staff go through our second round of what's really important and what can be deferred for another year. And so that's what we're going to be presenting to you tonight. Earlier this evening, I passed out some documents with the updated capital budget for this year. So, Terry Acton, our operations asset manager, is nice enough to put things in color and things, and so it's well documented later in there where it should be. So page 5, which is at the top of the page, says Buildings and Structures 2025. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, page 7. Yeah, sorry. All right, so okay, we all set? So at the, I guess, recommendation of staff, here are the following projects we think that can be deferred. Just understand that these are things that, under normal circumstances, if money wasn't an issue, should be completed, but nonetheless aren't to the point of where the service has to be stopped or playing has to be stopped. So the tennis courts, as we discussed a few weeks ago, is still repairable. It's having some issues, but we dropped that for $615,000. It's a full-scale replacement. We just upped the operational budget a bit for more fill and stuff. The curling club, we brought it to your awareness that the floor of that is going to be due for replacement sometime in the next few years. We removed that at a savings of $970,000. And the courthouse painting, for now, we've set that aside. We are losing a grant on that, about $40,000 left. Because we deferred because we used some of it for. Yeah, so about $30,000 left on that. So you're saving, I guess, truthfully, about $270,000. But if you looked at the building, she's in rough shape, but she still could be probably go another summer as we figure out the longevity and the plan for the courthouse.
Quick one on that grant. Does it have to be used specifically for painting, or is there another project that we could relocate those dollars to roof?
So through your worship, the funds were already relocated to the roof project. There are still some funds left over. I'd have to ask on the scope because the expectation was the funds to be spent this year.
Okay, because I got to think that we could probably find another $30,000 project in that building, couldn't we? That's something that needs improved.
No, it had to be spent by the end of October this
Yeah,
year.
we're too late, your worship. That we're in the last month and a half. By the time we find something to spend it on and get a contractor in, we'll be out of time.
Is there any way that we could pay the contractor in advance to?
We'll look at
Like
it.
what I'm saying is if we just do the pillars in the front of it, right?
Yeah.
Like just, if money's there, if there's a way that we can allocate it towards something that we need in the future, even if it's just a portion, like I said, the pillars or the doors, I don't know. It'd be a shame to lose those dollars, but spending saving $30,000 to spend $270,000 right now when we don't actually know what the plan is, the courthouse, doesn't seem very responsible either. So hopefully there's a way that we can get a project through there, and I know that they have to approve it, and I know it's tight time, but that'd be good to dive into that and see if we can't find something to do there.
We will.
Thank you.
Councillor Heenan? Yep. No. Oh, okay. The next item is the shoreline protection between the Whale Watcher buildings and William Street. That's actually tied into the wharf project anyway. That was going to be done at the same time because of the access, so there's $150,000 that we can defer there. The Welcome Center, we're going to install a heat pump in there. There already is one in there, but there's 2 tenants there, and one of them is leaving at the end of this calendar year. And so just to save money, we could keep the door open, put in a fan, and from the space that's locked, and we'll keep them going for next summer. The heating's okay in there. It's just the cooling in the summer that was a bit of a struggle. The arena washrooms, they're in rough shape, but we can defer them for another year. It's not necessary, especially if you're still, in earlier meetings, we talked about what we're going to do about the Visitor Information Center, like where its final location is going to be, and that would have been one of the reasons to update it. So if that's still to be determined, then we can postpone that for a year. The youth center, there's $3,600 about some playstations and some cabinetry around that. And then the library, they had requested a heat pump back in the room it used to be called the periodical room. I think they've renamed it. It has an accessible computer on it and stuff. So when you go through the back door to the left there, it's currently using a construction heater, the ones that hang from the thing. Frankly, we probably get money back on that. That's probably one I'd add back, truth be told, but we can discuss that later for the few dollars it is. Then we skip ahead to page.
Just a quick one on that one. We're skipping ahead. I don't recall, but the Patrick Connors, so the arena in Blacks Harbor, got significant funding last year, was it? Andrew Anderson Mason was involved with it. I know the announcement. I was just wondering if since we know these projects are coming up, whatever that fund was that they were successful at, does it make sense for us to look at the tennis courts and the curling club to try to get the same type of funding? Because their arena got money. Maybe there's a way our arena can get money, right? So, because that bill in the future, if we're able to get funding, could be like 2/3 dollars, could be basically saving the curling club for $300,000 versus $1 million, right? So I think if we get proactive about it, it doesn't mean that we're going to get it, but we should try, because again, I don't know if you saw the announcements at the Patrick Connors, but they got a significant amount of funding to save that building, and I think we're no different. So I wonder if we just get ahead of that, so that way when we get talking about budget 2026, we might have a grant to make that a little bit more appealing, because it's a calculated risk that we're doing, because at any given time, something can go wrong there. So again, I know staff is worked, but the other thing too is the Regional Service Commission as a grant writer. Maybe it's time the grant writer comes in and meets with us and talks about all these projects that we're deferring, to see if maybe they could put some hours towards our community to try to get funds to take some off our staff as well. So just something to be aware of, that we should keep this active versus just wait until next year and then be in the same situation, because they're important assets to the community. I feel bad for future councils as we defer these projects, because it will catch up to us. But I do agree, definitely for now, we do have to defer it.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Spear. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay, Your Worship. So, Council, I'm going to jump to the section called New Capital Department Requests, which is about, it's about 4 from the back. It says Market Wharf, Market Square, 2 years total at the top. Okay. So the surveillance cameras, niceties but not necessities, so staff are willing to defer those for another year and maybe buy them in smaller increments. The town hall, we talked about in the original proponent having washrooms on the other side of the walkway from our washrooms that are part of town hall, so we're going to defer that. Mind you, most of that spending came from the development fund, so it's not really saving anything as far as debt or anything. But nonetheless, depending on this visioning exercise we've talked about, we thought we'd sit on that for a year. And then towards the bottom, I will note it's his second year asking for it, but we said the portable stage trailer for $37,000 could be postponed. It does take two Public Works only like 4 to 5 hours to move the stage. It'd be nice, but again, it's also tied into the Market Square visioning exercise and somewhat the courthouse visioning exercise, so we'll just have to wait on that, in our opinion. So the last budget that we presented to you for capital projects, it's not typed here, was that the original capital ask were $5,716,000. Now we've lowered. Let's see. Yeah, sorry, I reversed numbers here. So the year-to-date debt is $1,600,000, or the requested debt prior to this was $1,685,000. Now it's less than that. Oh, sorry, Council. I reversed the figures on my pages, so it threw me off. Let me try again. So prior to the last budget we had $7.8 million in capital request. It's now been dropped to $5.7 million. The long-term debt originally was $2.8 million, and now it's $1.685 million. The reason the debt didn't go down as fast as the capital, because there's other grants and stuff that we'd worked into the numbering on the funding that have gone away, so other dollars. So that's why it's that even though we've gone down by over $2 million on the capital assets, that debt only went down $1 million. Is there any questions, comments?
So, Council, if we kind of went over the ones that staff wanted to defer, but we didn't go over the ones that are on there now.
Your Worship, Councillor Heaton had a quick question too.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead, then I'll pick up the spot. Oh, that's okay.
Had a question, Mr. Spear. You mentioned the first time you came with budget was the capital was 7.8 million, correct?
Yeah,
And then you said we're coming in now at 5.7?
yeah.
Well, I was just seeing 5.16. Is that
There's an addition error on this worksheet.
Okay, thank
It's all
you.
right. I was noticing at the last minute, didn't have time to do it, but, yeah. And I will say, council, too, just so you know, these recommendations, we said defer, but we didn't actually move them forward to get your feedback on them. So the years 2 through 5 will look a little different once we get feedback from you tonight on the recommendations. And years 2 to 5 are just, here's what we think it'll look like, as opposed to what you're committing to. But it's just so you see the effects on tax rate and things that potentially could happen. Your worship, sorry I interrupted you before.
Oh, no, I was just saying that council, like, we went through the ones that staff thinks can be deferred, but we didn't kind of go through them one by one we have in the past. I'm just wondering kind of how you want to go about this. Obviously, you just got this updated document, so haven't had a lot of time to digest it.
Although, I will say, your worship, we did email it on Friday.
Okay, yeah, this is the same one as Friday?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we certainly don't have to make any final decisions tonight.
No, but in the same sense, I think we're getting closer to the time period where we want to start giving direction and we want to figure out what this. In reality, this doesn't really, unfortunately, it's important because money is money, but this doesn't necessarily dictate what happens to the mill rate. What this does is dictate to the long-term debt of the community more.
100%.
Yeah, which again, that does tie into future mill rates. Not to say they're not, but it's this is borrowing, is what this list is, right? For the most part.
So, council, if you like, I can go through the 2025 projects one by one, or if you've had a chance to look at them, this is the third time you've seen them. I'll wait your direction, your worship, I guess, and I can do a quick summary, and if someone sees something that they want me to tell me to stop, we can discuss it.
So do we know, will this update it, sorry, it might be in the last page, what this does for the debt ratio of the town? Like, do you know what percentage it goes from to what?
Actually, yeah, I did look at it, but remembering again that we have to add in the future stuff, but right now it takes it to about 4%. It's right now about 4%. If we do these projects, without the debt retiring, it'll take it to about 6% for a year or two. Then once the debt for the wharf kicks in, that project continues, it'll jump to about 10 to 12%. And again, none of these projects we have there have been canceled, except the curling club and or the tennis courts. I guess they're just to wait council's pleasure eventually on that, or until we get some better financing on it. But everything else is just stuff that needs to be done pretty much.
So council, what's your pleasure? We're here, I think we need to start making some decisions, right? Like, we can't just keep deferring. I know we've looked at every budget now. I don't know what delaying another day is gonna get us if we're all here. So, council, do you want to go line by line through these? Does it look good to you? Kind of where, just for some consensus here, Mr. Spear?
Yeah, I guess, your worship, I was plugging the numbers in right up to the last minute before I came up here. I will say it looks like both tax zones, the tax rate could probably be lowered. We had originally set up that the total cost of assessment went up by 3%, but we saw that the assessments themselves have gone up by 10%. So it's going to lower the overall mill rate to get that 3%. So in theory, everyone would only pay 3% more taxes, in theory. But I did see a report from Service New Brunswick they sent to me that new construction in our assessment accounts for 3% of the growth we've had. So again, in very high-end math, I can't speak to specific properties, but in high-end math, we could potentially, only new projects have tax increases and people's assessments, but in theory, will possibly their total tax bill could be flat with only minor.
And that'll be case by case.
Case by
some may
case.
see it go down, some may see it go
Yeah.
up. It's not, that doesn't mean to everyone's individual home. There's different things. There's the spike protector that has had people backlogged, like myself, which this will be a battle for the next 3 years at least, because it went up 50% in 2 years. I'm not alone. I know a couple other councillors here nodding their head. And we're not alone, council, that I think a lot of people in the community right now are subject to the spike protector. But I will say in the ward of the old St. Andrews, it appears that not everybody is, because if everybody was, that would be automatically 10% across the board, right? So
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I really can't figure it out myself. So we do have a meeting with Service New Brunswick, are coming down to discuss those on the 18th, I think if it was. And to see, and that's my first, because I did throw it back to them. I said, well, everybody I know in town's got a 10% increase going year after year for several years, so why is this only 9%, including 3% growth? So we'll see.
So it'll be a question. And then the other question I have is, because that spike protector, because we can't see our individual ones yet, does that, what happened, like get the spike protector out of there? Did the assessments go up again in all of our wards? So, because the spike protector is the past, but if they raise it again, it just means more years of this thing, and something's got to give. I know that it's, people could say they see the inventory, but I think it's a certain type of house. There is limited inventory on certain prices of homes. But something's got to give, because up 50% in a couple of years for a lot of homeowners, at some point, that's got to stop. And, when you get your tax bill, there is things as a council that we can do to mitigate that, and lowering the mill rate is one. But in the same sense, inflation's inflation. And when the houses go up here, so do all the bills around here. All the construction people are tied up, and it's people are busy, which is good, but, something's got to give with the tax base, and it's compounded. So if it goes up, if your tax bill goes up $400 this year, and then you got another 10%, it's going to go up another $400. So it's $800 more than 2 years ago, right? So it just keeps compounding.
Well, and it should be noted, Your Worship, it's, we focus so heavily on the total taxes, we can't forget that debt that's creeping up as we either defer stuff or whatever have you. So do you take a little bit more of an increase to keep the debt a little lower, or do you just cut projects, et cetera, et cetera? It's just, it's a finite balancing act. I think we talked about that, giving the new government an opportunity to look for funding formulas, which have been highly recommended, but I guess we'll just wait and see. We'll leave it at that, if they're able to come out on those. The other concern, of course, or the other question is, one way or the other, there's going to be a federal election in the next 11 months. Or before then, and depending on what the new government does up there. Funding from up high, which usually drives the provincial funding, could be stalled for a year and a half, for 2 years waiting for that. So just throwing that at you.
So council, back to my, original, do you want to go through this line by line, or a staff proposal, the deferred projects, realizing that as you defer projects, it's just compounding, right? Is the other reality is if all of these things really need to be done, then if we defer them, it's just going to be harder days ahead as well. But I am very aware that with that wharf project, that debt ratio is extremely high for the town of St. Andrews. There's no question about it. I don't know if anything's jumping out at you at this list, council, of things that you still want to question, like a random one because they're right in front of us. Event chairs. I know that they don't match. I know they're not perfect, but if we have enough, you can still sit in them, right? Like, is that something, for example, and that's a small thing, is that something that we really should be doing with the debt ratio and paying for the big projects we are? That's what I'm looking for council to kind of give some direction. Or, again, if this looks good, it was significantly reduced, let's move ahead. So I'll open the mic to you. Councillor Heenan.
Why not? Thank you, Your Worship. If we do line for line, which I am not opposed to doing, but if we manage to save, like, let's just go with $40,000, what's in the bottom line in the total scheme of things by going line for line and arguing over things is not going to make that much difference. We do have a real problem, I see, with the structural things that we're putting off for years to come, like the curling club rink. I really see, like, a window here and there is really important, but it's not $1 million like the curling club. And so I feel we can go line for line, like just for an example, let's just pick something here. Replace the flooring in the dining room, $12,000. Well, if we cut that out, it's 12,000 savings, but then next year it's going to be added on as well. And in retrospect and respect totally to the debt of the town, I understand it completely. But if you keep removing things from the cupboard, all of a sudden the cupboard is empty. And then we don't have anything left. So we have to find, as you said, Your Worship, a fine balance between yay and nay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hurdle.
Thank you, Your Worship. You mentioned it, and I think the main concern that I have at this point is just compounding the issue down the road. I mean, we have a future council to, I guess, consider at that point as well, and I don't want to necessarily throw an insurmountable challenge at them, especially would it be early in their tenure at that time too. I don't feel like we really necessarily need to go line by line on that. I think it's unfortunate the chairs are number 2 on our list, because it's the one thing that kind of
it's in front of us too.
Yeah, I know. But again, in terms of savings, it will eventually have to get done, and I also realize that inflation doesn't go the other way. So if we push these things forward, then we're looking at inflationary costs on these two in the next couple of years. So, I mean, one of the things I do worry about is I know that we've sort of scraped the barrel to throw a few things off this budget onto 2026. Was that the right thing to do? Are there some, like, I find sometimes in these discussions, the truth is sometimes in the middle. There's things we can push off, but should we push them off might be a better question. So, because that's a significant amount of debt that we're throwing forward into 2026. Some of us may not be on council to have to worry about that at that time, but I still think, to be fair to that council, we should be, aware, like, where is the truth? Is it can we, or are we doing it because we have to?
I would say everything we've proposed now is doing it because we really, 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 really should. And I did skip a page, and I think we better go back to it. I forgot to make a note. It's the transportation network for this year, and so it's the third page in from the front. And so it's the third item that's the biggest. So, the bottom item, the third item we should talk about. So we've cut 2 infrastructure projects out this year, and we'll go over the utility budget in a few minutes. But the Harriet Street, we're going to do some infrastructure work on Harriet between Queen and Water. That's in pretty good shape. Everything around it's been replaced. Pretty good is probably not the right word, but it's doable. It hasn't had that many leaks in the last year or so it can hold on. Public Works can continue to repair it. So that's to save $62,000 in paving. Champlain Avenue, we talked a lot about the last meeting. That's from the Oppenheimer Museum to along the gravel road. So it's about $97,000 in infrastructure. The big one that we really need to settle out, Council, is the Prince of Wales upgrade that we've been talking about for over a year now. And so in discussions with CBCL, we could potentially lose 9 trees up there. And with the work that's going to be done, that some of the trees, the roots are going to be moved, and that could affect them. They'll be cut and stuff in order to do the work. And so there's a potential of losing a fair amount of trees up there. Originally started at 5, now they think it's 9, that everything they've kind of laid out there. Again, it was $400,000 if I remember the thing. So the road itself should be asphalted. It's about $652,000. It's in very rough shape. Passable, but as one of our main avenues in town, especially for the Kiwanis Campground and tourists and walkers, the street itself should be taken care of one way or the other. And so the question is, are you going to add the 1.5 meter trail at the detriment of some of those older trees? Which, I know we've been saying this for 15 years, but the trees are senior. Some of them fall down. The middle of them are hollow from rot, and so they'll probably come down. So it's either to pay $625 to resurface the road, or $846 minus $400, so $446 to get a 1.5 meter trail. But we need that trail in order to get the funding.
Councillor Ware.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I find it a little difficult to be having this discussion right at this point in time, budget time. it makes sense, but infrastructure spending is something that you plan years in advance. You know about it years in advance. And I think it's something we should have we have an asset management system. We should know it at all times what's coming up in the next year. It's not budget time. We sit down and scratch our head and decide what to do. There should be an ongoing plan that, things just fall in place and they become almost automatic if they're addressed on a regular basis, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or whatever. And to sort of be put in the position of having to make these decisions over a period of a couple of weeks when we've had a whole year to make the decisions, it just seems not the rational way to do it.
Thank you, Councillor
Your
Erickson.
Worship.
Yeah, Councillor Gubishal.
Thank you, Worship. I don't disagree with Councillor Weir, but this last one, the Prince of Wales Street, we've kicked that down the road a few times, and perhaps before, I don't remember the last time we went through the asset management system, but we did, perhaps before you joined council, but we did sit down with the asset manager and go through all the streets. Did we not?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did, but maybe we were overdue to do that again. But I don't disagree, but that one in particular has been deferred because of the cost, but I hate to lose any of those trees, especially this fall. It was beautiful going down through there, but it really is, it's quite unsafe, frankly. And so it's, that aside, not to debate it, just to point out that it has been kicked along for a few years now. Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah, so point taken, because it feels rushed in the decision making, but the reality is the asset management, we could, next week if we want, we could go and talk about the transportation network for 2026 or 2027, because it is all listed here for us. The only challenge that we have and why we're going to have these debates is the fact that, being completely candid, and we're not the only municipality, but to do our asset management file, we are going to hit our debt ratio. So even though it's planned, we can't do it because we're going to hit the number if we don't have some support from other levels of government. And that's why figuring out this fiscal reform, we're not the only municipality. Our financial position, again, we have debt, but it's a lot better than a lot of municipalities across New Brunswick, that's for sure. But something's got to give, because the current funding model and the future of maintaining the assets that most communities have in New Brunswick, they're going to fail. It's just a matter of when, because we have infrastructure that, quite frankly, the cost of replacing it far exceeds what it originally cost to put it in. So yeah, but point taken. But on this one, this is, and I'm glad you highlighted. I highlighted just a couple of things. I got an asterisk beside this one. So council, the gist of it is that this would be coming up. It's got pumped forward a couple of years early because we have funding that will make it cheaper than if we do it on our own. In a few years, it'll be required. Now, the bad side of this is the fact that there will be some significant concern in the community because this will require us to knock down at least 9 of those trees on Prince of Wales. And I know they're approaching towards the end of their life cycle, but they just survived a major, major winter, and they didn't, they lost branches, but most of them stayed right on that street. So there's got to be something still there keeping them up. And I know a lot of people in the community would say, let them have their life cycle, and then accordingly. So as much as those trees are beautiful and I value trees, is it worth that extra money is the question. And the other thing with it is if we replace it on our own, it probably won't be with that active trail that Councillor Gumishal said would be nice. And I do know a lot of elementary school kids use it to go to the point and go beach clean. Like it is an active transportation. A lot of people walk the town every morning. It's a loop. I will say, Councillor Neal could probably back it up. There hasn't been many pedestrians over the last couple decades that have been hit on that street. And again, you don't do something because it hasn't happened, because all it takes is one incident. I'm just saying that, relatively speaking, it is still a safe, even though I've been on it with kids, I see the concern. it's not like we've had a bunch of pedestrian accidents there either. A lot of people would say when you walk around town, it is still fairly safe to walk around the loop of the town. So I can see it both ways, but this one kind of feels like one of those ones that no matter what you do, you're putting yourself in a, you don't do it, you're going to pay more later. You do it, you're going to have a significant amount of people in the community that are upset that council cut those trees, just straight up. Councillor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship. Councillor Weir, I apologized that you hadn't been kept in the loop, but this is sort of one of those items that we see defer to 2026. Like way back, we put this on an asset management way back maybe possibly 2 years ago to defer it to 2025. Well, here we are. So it's the exact same thing as what we're doing in all the stuff we're saying we're going to defer it to, we're going to defer it. Well, now this one has come to attrition, so it needs to be dealt with, and that's the problem with deferring things. At some point, it comes to the rubber hits the road thing.
Rubber hits the road.
Thank you.
I wonder, council, though, if it's like they've looked at it. I wonder if we could set up a time where maybe it'd be just a quick walk where yourself or Mr. Acton can walk us and just show us what trees are going down, just so you can visualize what that street will look like once this is done. Will it take half them, or does it take a quarter of them? But if you just walk and say, that one's gone, that one's gone, that one's gone, I personally, even though I don't have a vote, I would feel a lot better about council's decision when I can actually see the impact on that street. And then I feel like the following meeting, it could be a very quick conversation on this one. Do you proceed? I don't think anyone will question if this is coming up in the asset management plan. It makes sense to get the side trail and the road done cheaper than what it will cost us in a couple of years to just get the road. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Just the question is what is the impact of that trail? Like that's what I'd like to see, that street, and see what it is, because there is a lot of people, again, in this community that are going to have a strong opinion if they go and 9 trees are getting cut down on that street. It's a photographed one. You see wedding photos there all the time with the tree. It's a beautiful street. Trees are important to a lot of people in this community. And I will say, in addition to approving this budget, we should also approve, for every tree we knock down, a couple more in the community be planted, because I think we have a responsibility to keep this community green as well. So I don't know about you, but I'd really value that exercise of just, I think we have to meet where at the elementary school and then just walk towards the point. I would personally love to do that and see what the impacts are. And Mr. Spear, I don't know if you can do it, or Mr. Acton, anytime. I'd love to do it. Mr. G and I walk it all the time with cross country. Mr. G will hold out the hockey stick to keep cars from slowing down. But how many would like to actually walk and see that? I just think that, so that's majority. Let's do that, and then we'll come back to that one. Council, over to you. The other ones I want to highlight is there's a couple projects on here. We have a tourism accommodation levy, but they scream tourism accommodation levy. For example, Town Hall, fixing those washrooms and renovating them. That is for visitors. I very rarely ever use those washrooms. I'm downtown every day. I don't usually if I'm downtown, I'm usually in a business that has a washroom. Those are tourist washrooms. If we have a revenue source from taxation that tourists are giving us, I think tourists should pay for that. And then there was another one I highlighted, I think. Let me just find it. There's the washrooms. Give me one sec here, sorry. And I know that as we spend those funds, it's less, but 1 second. There was one more I had here. Oh, it was the parking lot by the trail system. We're putting that in, obviously, for the trail, but we're putting it in for more parking for visitors that come to our community. The amount of parking spots we have downtown, they are enough when no tourists are here. We have enough parking for residents. We are putting in additional parking in the future for visitors who come here in the summer. So I'm wondering if that can't be paid for. Instead of us as a municipality incurring long-term debt that the taxpayer has to, I'd like to see the tourism accommodation do those tourism products for development for our community. I don't know if anyone sees it the same. I just don't know. If we have a revenue source, it should be paying for it, is my opinion. Council, over to you. Mr. Spear, and then I'll go to Councillor Bennett just in case it's a rebuttal.
Well, it's no rebuttal. I was just going to say I had the same thing. So when I set up the funding model, I already picked those 2 projects to be paid from the TAL, to be honest.
Okay, so they're already in. When you talk about long-term debt, though, are those part of the long-term debt?
No. And so I
Okay.
did present something at some point, I can't remember, we've gone through so many, how the funding was going to look, and those are part of it. I can re-present that.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Bennett,
the
sorry,
record.
that might change yours too.
Yeah, no, thank you, Your Worship, and I appreciate your comments and CIO's answer to that question. I do 100% agree that the tourism-related items be covered under the TAL money. Thank you.
And thanks, Mr. Spear. I should have picked up, but I thought it all added up into the long-term debt. My apologies. All right, Council, anything else for you? I just pointed a couple out that I...
Councillor Blanchard.
Councillor Blanchard, thank you. Sorry, I didn't look up.
No worries. Thanks, Your Worship. Just a question on, again, one of the items, and now I've lost it. It was with regards to Indian Point, raising and protecting Indian Point to mitigate, protect against the effects of climate change. We have that as for discussion in the remaining life, and we don't have a cost estimate for that. Just wondering to town staff, do we have sort of a general idea? What are we looking at there? And I mean, again, I know we're talking about deferring a lot of different things, but there are some things that are going to need to happen, and I kind of consider that to be one. That's that is to protect major infrastructure in our water treatment plant. We've seen some of the flood risk models from the province recently, and that is a point of weakness, certainly within the town, and again, protecting a major infrastructure piece. So just wondering if we could get a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, so Terry's watching online, just texted me $1.5 million minimum to do that. That would raise it, I think, the full meter, protect the in-ground infrastructure, and maybe widen the road a little bit so it's passable by two vehicles, or safely passable.
And council, please note that one of the items that was addressed by staff was the AIM shoreline restoration project we were looking at that would show private and public natural infrastructure repairs. So with that going ahead, that would also help tailor a project for the point, and we could reapply for other grant funding that was already out.
Thank you. Council, anyone else? All right, so what I'm going to do, Mr. Spear, yeah.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to follow up with a comment Councillor Weir made regarding the asset plan. We have a 10-year plan that Terry's worked on for 8 or 10 years on that. It can be brought up. Most councils, this is the only time they ever want to talk about it, have a look, make a decision, and send us go. We can bring it back quarterly for further in-depth discussion. We have no problem with that. The data's all already there. It's just trying to, what is easiest for council to absorb it with everything else that's going on.
We could also add maybe a finance and administration committee, and then have a quarterly meeting and review budget, have a quarterly conversation. Because you are right. Sometimes these conversations feel rushed because we have to have so many in such a short period of time. I feel that way too. But in the same sense, I'm the first to say when something comes up and we have a big agenda, let's defer that for budget time, right? So it's just as much on all of us, I guess, as anyone. But if we had a quarterly meeting where I've got a bunch of people that are very passionate about budget, and it's one that you could pick if you go to or not, I think there might be some value in that. And then, but I do think one of the big takeaways for this is we have this plan right in front of us. We have a grant writer that part of our funds to the Regional Service Commission is paying for. Let's give them this presentation and say, these are the priority ones we want you to go out and write some grants for us. I know Mr. Knopper and Mr. Spear apply for grants, and we've got a lot of them. That's where the Prince of Wales Trail came from. But to have some external support trying to find some of these challenges that we have, I think if you talk about a curling club, we'll use that one because it's a big one. A conversation of replacing the curling club floor for $900,000+ versus $300,000, that's a big difference in conversation. So I think we really have got to get proactive and try to find other levels of government because, again, our asset management plan tells us that we're going to be in trouble. So, Councilor Gubishal?
Just a question for staff. With regard to the Ross Museum, I see they have 42,000 in requests that are budgeted. They had less than 2,000 visitors this year. Could you remind me how much we get each year for the Ross Trust?
About $32,000, which only partially covers operations, does not cover any capital.
Just pointing that out.
Yeah, I will say that you were on the previous council, as was I, but the council before the previous, so 2 removed, were heavily debating the future of the museum. It was an active conversation that was being had. To your point, it is a heritage building in the community, but less than 2,000 visitors, and the donations weren't much. Were they like $1,000? Spending this much tax money? Is there another model? How about that? Is there another model where that building can continue to have the heritage that it does for the community, but doesn't cost the taxpayer? If you even charged $20 a person, it's still not paying for itself with the amount of visitors that they have. So, it's a good point. Thank you, Councillor Michelle. Councillor Heenan.
Yes, when I was going through the staff report, it said that it was opened 109 days, and it only had 1,744 visitors, and donations was $2,695. And why I wrote that down, it's just the fact about, we can take that as part of the courthouse talk as well. Like, do we need another, that's a whole other ballgame.
How many visitors did you say from the report?
26, I had written it down. 1,744 visitors, opened 109 days.
That's 16 people a day.
Yes. And then they got donations of $26.95, and I can't do the math much, but I'm thinking that's like $26 a day or something.
Yeah, it's less than a toonie a person that comes
Yeah.
through, right?
So it's not good, it's not like everybody says, and we get it through all the surveys, everybody says how much everything is visited and how much is used and how much it gives to the community. But when you get the hard facts of how many people actually went through there, it's quite daunting. Thank you, Worship.
Now, in those numbers, does that count school visits too? I assume it would, right? When the
Well, not for the summer season. The schools tend to only come during the Christmas season.
Okay, so they don't typically count. Councillor Harlan.
Thank you. The challenge I have with this discussion is it's a little bit about how do we identify as a community, as a municipality. So, I hear people talk about us as being a historic community. I also hear us being described as, St. Andrews by the Sea, which has a wharf that costs us a lot of money. But I think it's difficult for us to talk about being a historic community if we don't rally around that and create opportunities to fully develop the historic elements, develop and promote the historic elements within our town. When we were doing some of the research on the historic bylaw, historic tourism generates a lot of revenue. Have we really tapped into that to the extent that we could? And I'm not saying that as a criticism in any way, because I think, we are quite maxed in terms of what we are currently doing, but is that I think it's difficult to have that conversation without also saying we are going to go down that road and explore what opportunities there are, or we're not, and we're not going to identify ourselves as a historic town. I think that's something we have to wrestle with on a larger scale as part of the discussion.
Yeah, it's a fair point. If you want to be a historic town, promote history. But in the same sense, on the opposite side of that, how many visitors would the Blockhouse have? See, the argument is a municipality is not a business, but at some point, you've got to look at a business, and you've got an asset like the Blockhouse that's bringing over 12,000, and then you have an asset that's costing the municipality a lot more money, and it's getting under 2,000 visitors. But you're right, history's history, but in the same sense, I don't think anyone's proposing that we alter the look of the Ross Museum, but it goes back to a fundamental challenge we've had is, and it still lingers with the courthouse, is what is the cultural asset plan for this community?
Absolutely. And if I could just add, why does the Blockhouse get that many visitors and other historic assets in our community don't? You know, and who has the sole focus of promoting all of that? Well, I mean, we currently don't have it. We have staff who do an amazing job with the amount of time that they have for it, but we haven't said, let's really see where we can take this. If that's the direction that we're going to go in. I recognize that, you know, every asset we have comes with a cost. The wharf comes with a cost. I've had a couple of people say to me, well, do we really need a wharf? I'm thinking, I believe we need a wharf, but maybe everybody doesn't believe we need a wharf. But we have to make a decision in terms of saying, yes, that's the direction that we're going in, and that's where we're going to put our energy and focus. And I think we have to make a decision around that with respect to our historic assets.
Councillor Heenan.
I just want to mention, we talked about the Blockhouse having such a large visitors. It has to do with exactly what you said, historic by the sea. So when they come to town, they want to go to the ocean and they see the history at the Blockhouse. If you take, I was invited, as you all were, to a thing, and it was highly advertised at the Ross Museum this summer. I was the only one who attended. There was nobody there. And it was highly advertised. It was in every brochure and everything, every piece of material that went out was advertised. And I and 3 other people were there. Chris, you were one. And that's what I'm saying. You can advertise, you just have to, but the Blockhouse is what the kids like, historic by the sea. That gives them, they're both things. So when you say we are known as historic by the sea, that's why you get the Blockhouse and you get the sea and the gardens. It's beautiful. Thanks.
Mr. Spear.
Thank you, Worship. I just wanted to add a little bit of relevance. The numbers for the Blockhouse, too, are on the property, not just visiting the structure. So as Councillor Heenan was saying, it's a fantastic spot to get a great view of the town and the water. I suspect those that actually go into the fort are probably a fraction of that, but that's people that are actually accessing the land and doing picnics and watching things. Thank you.
Yeah. Point taken. I bet you it'd still be significantly higher than 2,000 that go into the Blockhouse in the run of a season. It's I've been down there. It's just because it's inviting. It's the location. It's neat when you're down there. It's got a vibe to it. You, like you said, you can overlook the town while you're down there. Kids see the cannons and stuff. They're like, hey, let's check out what's in here. You drive by the museum, no disrespect to it. It's a brick building, though, and it's a sunny day in St. Andrews. It's obvious by the numbers that most people are like, I'm going to keep going and go up to the playground, right? Like, it's just, and then one of the things you hear, and it's not completely true, is they think it's a family collection of the Rosses and only a family collection of the Rosses. And they're like, okay, it's a bunch of old things a family had. Again, that's the education element of if there is certain displays, like the banister display, there is things, and they did a good job of talking about the banister display, but I think fundamentally a lot of museums do very well by having a collection of a number of different things. If you go to the Graham and Ann Museum, I don't know if anyone's been there, really interesting spot, right? Really. And Beaver Harbor Archives is actually a museum too, in theory. They have displays and things like that. A lot of interesting things from all over the community. But all of them also have challenges around visitation and donations. So unfortunately, the reality is if you look at museums across the province, they are either struggling or being subsidized. That's just the truth of a museum. Very few are getting people to pay at the door and being like, oh, we have reserves. It's just not happening. They're relying on government grants and other things to continue to operate. And some are managed better than others. Again, the Graham and Ann Museum, probably one of the first in class for how it's operated there. They've really added, murals inside in the stairwell. They've added, in behind, they've got an interactive area. They're doing a great job, but they are like counting pennies, looking for lots of grants. The person that works there, not only are they a tour guide, but they're also the ones going out and getting the funding. But again, all of them that I'm aware of, and I talked to a lot of them through Fundiculture when I was involved with that, they struggle. You said a hand, sorry, was there? Councilor Grimshaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to echo what Councillor Harlan was saying. Certainly, we have underdeveloped cultural assets, but it's also budget time, and perhaps this will serve notice to some of our cultural asset proponents that we need help. We don't have a department like the province has a historical department. The feds have, there should be. This isn't something we can manage as a community, I don't think, going forward. We have over $100,000 between the Ross Museum and the jail and the courthouse on just this year and discussions need to happen, and maybe this will kickstart some cultural asset planning and development. But right now at budget time, that's over $100K that perhaps we should be, maybe the steps can wait another year until we have a better plan, is my point. So, thank you, Worship.
Thank you, Councilor Michelle. So on that, let's jump to that for your point. What page, sorry, is that? I'm on the wrong one.
Nine pages in.
There it is. So you're, so yeah, yes, that's 2026. But to the point is we're gonna have some big conversations about the courthouse. Either way, we have to have big conversations about the courthouse. And to Councillor Ware's point about let's not just wait till budget time. We have 2 weeks. I know we've got a lot of work ahead of us between the municipal plan, zoning bylaws. Like we do have to spread this stuff out. But I dare say at some point next year, when we figure out the courthouse, we should have a discussion about all the cultural assets, to Councillor Harlan's point, and say, what is the plan? And then the other thing is, it's no disrespect to anyone that has put any time, volunteer time into those assets. It's just the expenses far exceed the revenue, and a community that's facing pressures on asset management has to look at everything. And we have to wonder how that asset can be used within the community to maximize the opportunity, taking into account that heritage is extremely important to us. It's not a good look if we're trying to pass a heritage bylaw and we're talking about a courthouse and a museum. It's like you're valuing heritage one way, but maybe not the other, right? That's the thing without, and I know that we're not. I'm just saying that this is a budgetary conversation, and it's a fair, all these comments about it, they're very, very fair. They're very, very fair. Based on donations alone, to replace the windows, it would take us 5 years to collect that donations, 5 years of operating to pay for just the basement windows. That's concerning. So on that, they're in poor condition. I don't know if we want to just go ahead because they need to be replaced no matter whatever you do with that. Those are things that need to be done. Whether you change the plan or not, poor basement windows are poor basement windows. So, over to you.
Excuse me, Your Worship, which can lead to other problems if we don't replace them.
But, so council, over to you. How many would just like to leave that as is? Show of hands. Or how many would, I guess it's for next year anyway, so. So let's just have that conversation. We don't even have to touch 2026 tonight, but let's have that conversation rather. All right, anything else?
Can you just clarify which conversation?
I think we need to have that cultural asset
Okay.
conversation. And the courthouse is obviously the first one we have to get to, but out of what comes to the courthouse, I don't necessarily think one's completely dependent on the other, but they are all related. What comes out of that discussion on the courthouse we should immediately follow into a conversation on all the other assets as
Okay,
well. And it
great.
doesn't mean that we lump them all together, but I think we need to go individually by them and say, do we add fuel to help it grow, or are we okay with status quo, or do we make tough decisions financially, right? So, and there's other options there. I just gave 3. All right. Anything else on these, council? So is everyone happy with proceeding with the plan then?
Your worship, this shouldn't take as long, but I also have the utility that we could touch
Yeah,
on briefly.
We'll jump over to utility. I just want to wrap this one up. Okay, council, we've had lots of time to discuss that. Let's jump over to the thinner document, which is still expensive, the capital budget for utility.
Thank you, worship. It should be noted, council, it's always in my plan over the next winter to have a look and try to present maybe a 5 to 10 year plan of capital assets. The utilities probably more important than the general because basically we have to recover it through user fees, and there's a lot of work that should be done in there. But having said that, there's some things that we've put off for now, and to get us through next year, we've got the metered consumption just starting this fall, and Andrew's actually actively working on it now, so hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll have the bills out. And so we'll have a look at that. So if you go to year 2025 in the water and sewer, or water and sanitary, sorry. So we had a big discussion on Champlain Avenue the last time, and so we've just postponed it. We want to review it some more, so it's off the budget for next year. It's $858,000. Things that we plan to do is Prince of Wales, again, near the Algonquin for $505,000. We took out the Harriet Street for $400,000. We talked about that in the asphalt. Carlton Street between Harriet and Elizabeth, $125,000. The water treatment facility, we're still continuing the meter programs, $50,000. We're looking at replacing some of the larger meters. They'll probably generate enough revenue in updating those meters to offset the cost, truth be told. We'd like to add some cameras at the sewer lagoons. Those ones it's uncameraed right now are low-quality cameras, so we'd like to add those at $6,000. We talked about trimming the trees along the easement because it's completely covered. The chlorine gas to scales, 85. The rest of them is relatively low, Your Worship. We have already gone through those, so if you don't mind, I won't go item by item there.
No, they're necessities too. for the
Yeah,
system,
all
right?
necessities, tools of the trade. What I can tell you is that, get my numbers right now, that originally we had about $2.1 million worth of capital purchases, especially with that other big item taken out for Champlain, it's down to $801,000. Our original long-term debt was $895,000, now it's $141,000. So again, there's projects there that probably could be done, should be done, but an extra year is not going to stop the services to those residents along those lines that need to be addressed sooner rather than later.
Council, any question on this one? It does seem a little more straightforward than the other one, but there might be questions. Councilor Ware?
Just a quick question on the dam. I had a look at the wheel the other day. I don't suspect it can be opened or closed or anything. It's a fixed structure now?
It is. There's, originally there's logs there. I think they're just, they call it rail ties, 10 by 10s or something that they can just drop in. And it's really sophisticated, as you can know. But because of the level of water that's coming down from the others and the water levels to the landowners was getting so high, several years ago, they removed all of them. And so the water's at the level that we've discussed now, that it's down below the prior years. Those could be added in, and I'm going to talk to staff about that to bring the water's level up again. But right now, there isn't any concerns with the water. Closer to the summer, we've got a winter coming, the level should go up. But the dam itself had a structural report done about 10 years ago. There's a little bit of work done to it, so physically it's in pretty good shape. Environment and local government did a report maybe 3 years ago, and they didn't deem it to be a significant concern. I asked, never got a report back from them, but all they told me was it was okay, that they didn't have any concerns about it. And so just this water, with controlling the water level, we have the ability to do that. We haven't done much over the last few years because of significant rainfalls, but It's hard to believe after the rain we've got earlier part this year, the lake level has dropped so fast, but it has. And the consumption, it's not through town consumption, just to be clear. You know, our consumption isn't up tremendously compared to other years. It's just natural ways and supposedly lack of rainfall, significant rainfall, I should say, since the 1st of July.
And I know they're all part of the same watershed, but Gibson Lake, like cottages that I go to every year, it was a lot lower, especially in the fall this year than it normally is. So
Yeah, it's down about a foot, I think, at this point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, people are concerned and they want to know about the integrity of the dam. You know, they certainly don't want that to go out, because then they'd be living in mud flats, so.
Yeah, no, the dam itself is structurally fine. Like I said, there's a manual system for putting in the gates that I'll instruct them probably this week to at least throw in the first one to see if we can get it back going up. But it's been the first time in years and years that the water's gotten down this low, and it's still not what we'd call it a critical, but it's low for what we should be for sure.
And that, I don't pretend to know, but I'm assuming lower water levels don't help the algae situation out there. Would that be a safe assumption?
Yeah, but it'd be in the summer months. It'd have to be critically lower than this.
Yeah.
What's that? And stagnant water too. One thing people can let us know that what we've had trouble in the past too is that sometimes beaver dams get built up in some of the upper lakes and the main draw of water. We haven't seen that, but honestly, we're not going through the whole watershed as part of our daily routine. So if there's a local landowner that might know of something about that, let us know. We can talk to environment and local government, and sometimes they will do something to open up the flow of water again if anyone's aware of somewhere, but I haven't heard of anything. But I know once or twice in the past 10 years that's happened.
If this lingers next year, though, does it make sense to, I don't even know if you have to hire a professional to get into some drone work and just fly up? Because a drone will tell you the story nowadays. Like, beaver dams are usually pretty obvious. You see the house, and then, you know, it's pretty obvious. I just know, to your point, that years ago, Gibson Lake's level is getting lower, and it was it Snowshoe that's up above that? There was a significant amount of beaver activity, and the streams that flow into it weren't flowing. And it doesn't take much, and I've been around the lakes, and I know there is beavers around them. So to think that they're not a factor in this, but I will say it was definitely a dry summer. Obviously, I work at a tourist attraction garden. I know how much water we had to put on it this year, and I know how many sunny weekends we had. It rained a lot more the year before, especially after the forest fire, right?
And we'll reach out. I haven't even reached out to Eastern Charlotte Waterways yet, who may be able to provide us a little more input since that's in their domain. So staff I just became really aware of it in the last week or so when they brought it to my attention. So we're going to go looking a little harder and see what we can find out.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So are we good with this one, Council? This one's a lot more straightforward than the other one. All right, Mr. Spear, anything else for tonight that you wanted to highlight in regards to the budget?
Not so much in the budget. There's going to be some changes. I guess I wanted to ask Council when you'd like to meet again with the budget. So next Monday is Remembrance Day, so we won't be meeting there. And the 12th is a staff-led meeting. So either the 13th, or I didn't know if we could take time before at the 12th to open it up, because it's a regular meeting of council for the budget, and then go into the staff-led meeting after. We can postpone it. The 18th is a regular council session, though, isn't it? So it's council's pleasure. I don't know if there's a lot on the agenda, we don't think, for the 18th. So if you want to take a chance and see if we can delay it to the 18th and finalize it then, or come close to finalizing it then, we can wait. But if you'd like to pick a time next week.
So the staff-led, I know we're going to talk about grants and things like that, but outside of that, do we expect that to be a heavy meeting for the staff-led?
There's not a lot of new items on there that we haven't talked about before, as far as I'm concerned.
So just for safe planning, why don't we just have a special meeting, and then if we get through it and talk about the budget, let's keep the fuel on that. Is there any way, based on the operating budget, the capital, which again is more long-term debt, that at that point you'll have estimate of a proposal for a mill rate for the wards?
Yes.
Okay.
That I've already got it worked in.
I know you've been looking at it. I've been looking at it. I've punched
I got to go through, make all sure my formulas are all working before I announce too much. But I have plugged in the next draft of the version. I have the mill rates entered into them, where they could be, I guess. So it's just a discussion on how council wants to proceed from there.
So I think that maybe we have that discussion on the 12th, council. Does that make sense to everybody here? Let's have a special meeting, and then again, if it's quick, then we just end it and we go into kind of the staff-led.
So would we start that at 6?
Well, it's 6:30, 6 would be preferable, but I think for staff-led, but we're talking a regular meeting now. So Councillor Hurdle, would you be able to get in for a 6 o'clock on the? Yeah, okay, 6 o'clock would be great.
6 o'clock?
Yeah, I guess Councillor Bennett brought a good point. Can we arrange with either yourself or Mr. Acton to do that Birds of Wales walk before that?
Yep,
Then we can talk about
I'll
it.
talk to him in the morning. I mean, he's watching this meeting, so he'll have a plan for me when I see him first thing in the morning, I'm sure. We didn't want to necessarily mark the trees yet because get people overly concerned.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if we
So
even need
we'll
to
go-
mark it, we'll walk
Yeah,
down,
yeah.
because if you mark it, people assume it's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, council wants to take a good look at it, and it's,
Yeah.
there's fair concerns on both sides of this one, so. All right, so let's do that then. We'll line it up. Thank you, council, appreciate that. All right, we're gonna switch off the budget then, so we, nothing under new business, so question period, anything get submitted? Or anyone online?
We have one online. For those that are online, if you have a question for council based on tonight's meeting, please raise your hand. Last call, any questions for council on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand.
Could be one of the Neal family here to watch Gregor get his award.
They were all here.
They were all there.
They were all present.
It's amazing they come to watch Gregor but never come to watch you, eh, Councilor Neal? Your mic wasn't on, so now I just look like I'm chirping you with no response back. All right, and was anything submitted via email? All right, thank you very much, council, appreciate that. Thank you, staff. Councilor or Deputy Mayor's comments? Deputy Mayor?
Am I the only one? Just a reminder that we're having the drum and rattle workshop November the 16th. 9 to 12 are the drums, lunch on your own, 1 to 4 rattles. The poster is on the town website, and you can call me at 506-529-3331 and leave a message, or you can email me at kackagy@townofstandrews.ca. So as soon as possible, because we need to know the numbers, and then we only have 20 spots for morning and afternoon, so please get your name in as soon as possible, and then your money. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Oh, good. Have remembrance. Good.
Pardon?
Have a great Remembrance Day. Remember to get there early for a seat at the Anglican Church. 10 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, appreciate that. So, thank you, council. There's no one else. I just want to again congratulate the Bayside Golf Course volunteers. There's a number of them that were recognized. Cindy Kohler, Gregor Neal, and David Lord for their contributions to the community. So at this time, I'll be looking to get a motion to go to closed session. So at 8:23 p.m., I'll be looking to go to closed session as per Local Governance Act 68(1)D, the proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. Could I have a mover to go to closed? Councillor Gumichel, seconded by Councillor Neal. All in favor of going to closed session?
Aye.
That's everybody. We'll give a moment for technology to shut down. Thanks for anyone watching.